Hello and welcome back to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show where we meet up and coming indie authors and talk to them about the recently released books. Welcome back. Again, this is Ray Walters. There are seasons in life that many people are taught to endure quietly, even when their bodies, emotions, and sense of identity are changing in ways they do not fully understand. Perimenopause is one of those seasons, and for many women, it can arrive with confusion, frustration, silence, and even shame. The second fire, perimenopause, power, and the end of shame steps into that silence. The book combines personal story, women's health concerns, cultural critique, and a call for more honest conversations about the female body. It looks at the ways women can feel dismissed, misunderstood, or pressured to hide what they are experiencing, while also encouraging readers to rethink aging, listen more carefully to their bodies, and prepare future generations with more clarity and openness. Our guest brings this subject to the table through her own experience, her work in natural wellness, and her desire to change the narratives that have left many women feeling alone. Joining us today is the author of The Second Fire, Tamar Massoyan. Tamar, welcome to the Author Roundup.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you for having me.
Very much excited to talk with you about your book. First off, just want to congratulate you in getting this book published. This came out sometime in January. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
All right. And this is with Balboa Press, right?
Yep,
So
with Balboa.
let us in on your experience in getting this book published.
It was a few years. I've been starting to write this book for a few years at that point in the fall when I decided I wanted to publish. And every year I would add a different layer to what I was writing. First, it was just I was journaling what was going on with me to
Mm,
then starting to dig and learn more about just perimenopause in general, which I
mm.
didn't know much about. I mean, I have my mother, I had my siblings, but I had no idea until I started to experience stuff myself. So that led me down my writing journey, which took me years to write up until this fall. So the publishing has been kind of happened really fast. Once I decided to write the book, coordinated with Balboa, they made it very seamless. And we just, next thing you know, I have a book and it's published. It kind of happened really quickly for me.
And I have to thank you for publishing this book because perimenopause is a realm not common to men, and it made me understand what it is about. It made me appreciate my mom more. I have sisters too, so basically, it will help me understand them, what they're going through. Will also allow me to open up and be able to provide them the support that they need should they need it.
Exactly. And you know, it was a book that when I first wrote it, it was like a journal first. So it was more learning as I was going,
Mm,
and then next thing I know, as I'm conversating with other people, it's
mm.
oh my, adding layers to it that I'm not alone and they're not alone. And now how do we bring this all together into one place? So yeah, a lot of people have given me that same feedback.
All right. For viewers and listeners who are new to your work, what is The Second Fire about? And what conversation did you hope this book would open?
I really wanted to help women understand that perimenopause is not just like a hormonal event, that it was awakening of some sorts. And I couldn't put my finger exactly on what it was. And everyone you meet will have a different experience through it, but that it's not just, oh, it's hormones, and we'll dismiss it at that. Um, I wanted to blend my personal story and also discuss like historical events,
Mm,
um, things going on, culturally, research that I had done, and I wanted to put it all into one place. Um, Understand why women are feeling exhausted. We're disconnected, we're anxious, we're dismissed. Um, and the hardest part for me was and then you add shame to it. It's like, where is all this coming from? And
Mm.
how do we prepare for it? And if you're in it, what do you do with it now? Um, so I wanted to have a larger conversation about women's bodies to understand what the silence, where it started, why are we doing it, and understand it versus just dismiss it, which is what I feel like we've been doing for years. So that was my hope yep, for my readers.
All right. You write about being blindsided by perimenopause after feeling like you were thriving. What was the moment when you realized something bigger is happening here?
Uh, This is the part of the book that I spent probably the most time on because I am very conscious of my body. I've always eaten well. I exercise. My mental health, my physical, my emotional health have always been very important to me. So I
Mm.
thought I was thriving. I thought that I can't get any better than this until
All right.
perimenopause hit, and I had no idea that's what it was at first. I just knew that something something was off. It's like something took over my body. I wrote that in my journal. It's like something has hijacked me and
Okay.
I don't know what it is. And that's where it started. And I started writing more about what it was, what it felt like. And that really helped me then backpedal to figure out, oh my goodness, maybe it is my hormones because it's only at certain times of the month or
Mm.
only certain ailments show up when I'm feeling exhaustion, when I'm feeling tired. This is what's happening. It was a hard link at first because I
Mm.
thought I was doing everything right.
One of the strongest themes in the book that I noticed is silence. Why do you think so many women struggle to talk openly about perimenopause?
We were conditioned to be that way. And I
Mm.
really wanted to go back as far as I could. Was it something religious in nature? Was it patriarchy? I couldn't put my finger on one exact thing from
Okay.
all those years back. But it
Okay.
didn't start recently. It's something historical. It's something that's been in place far longer than I think I could put my head around. And
Mm.
it was understanding that women had to be silenced. There was some kind of power to them that couldn't exist simultaneously through perimenopause. And I still believe that. And that's still something I'm researching and trying to read and understand.
Okay.
But we've normalized being quiet, being discomfort, having discomfort. Well, women every day we're exhausted. We're having mood swings. We're having anxiety, burnout,
Mm.
sleep deprivation, and that's all normal. No one questions it. It's just that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're conditioned to believe. That's what women are here to endure. And until it gets too late, right, or it gets too hard, and then it's an emotional crisis. It's a physical crisis, and I think it's conditioning that until you realize it's happening, you can't really stop it. You just continue, going through the motions that
Mm.
were taught to you through generations.
All right. You push back against the idea that a woman's body is the villain in the story. How can women begin to listen to their symptoms without immediately blaming or fearing their bodies?
Well, I think it's we have to change the relationship we have with symptoms in our body. And this isn't just perimenopause. This
Mm.
is just learning about yourself and your body. Our symptoms are just talking to us. They're just telling us what is off in the system. And we've been taught to also suppress that.
Okay.
It's, oh, I have a headache. Well, you don't just get headaches. There's a reason for the headache.
Mm.
And understanding your own body and why you're getting those headaches. I never tell my clients to not seek medical advice. I think medical advice is very important. What I'm
Mm.
saying though is the villain here is we're offsourcing all of that to a third party to tell us what's wrong with our bodies. All I'm saying is get all your info together and make your own decision. Your own intuition it will always lead you down the right path. But having all the tools you need, and being able to make a good decision, because if not, it's like we're villainizing. The opposite of that is we're giving our bodies off-sourcing to other people or other experts, and they're telling us that, oh, it must be this, and then, you're following that guidance, and it becomes a villain because your body backfires. We're built to understand our own bodies and know that we're all different. We're all going to have different needs at different times in our lives. And
mm.
so that's where I talk about the villain because I lived in that villain for a long time until I got out of it.
All right, this next question is for me very much important. I want to invite a thoughtful cultural conversation without revealing too much of the book. Um, the book critiques a culture that often measures women by youth, beauty, usefulness, and productivity. How has that shaped the way women experience aging?
I think we absorb the message that women, their value is based on their appearance, their productivity, caretaking, and how, they're easy, like the world can consume them. And
Mm,
that is not an accurate depiction of what we are. Like there's so much more to women, and we're so much more than what we're tied to as our appearance. And
mhm,
um, what happens in midlife is things start to change. You're physically changing, you're emotionally changing, spiritually even changing. And there's a panic that happens amongst women. And culturally, we're not helping those women identify that that's exactly what's happening. And they're losing their identity, their control over themselves.
mm,
Um, I think this stage is incredibly powerful, but instead of using that power, we are saying, "Oh, you're getting older, you're getting more tired, you're more emotional." Like there are these negative connotations that we put on them versus embracing them. And for many women, it's the first time they're asking their very pivotal questions about themselves, like, "What do I want? What
mm.
do I believe? What is draining me?" These questions are stuff we were never taught to ask. And this is when the shedding happens. It happens in midlife.
All right. This next question, I wanted to ask you this because I wanted to give you uh, an opportunity to speak to directly to women who may feel alone. Um, y- you discuss women feeling dismissed or misunderstood when they seek help. What would you say to a woman who knows something is wrong, but feels unheard by the people around her?
The first thing I'd say is don't dismiss yourself because other people are dismissing you. And we do that. This is me included in the beginning.
Mhm,
And if you know something is off with your mind, your body, um, that experience matters. You have to sit with it and you have to listen with it. And I encourage women to document their symptoms. I spent a lot of time doing that for myself because I'm telling you, I was thriving. I was doing everything right, or so I thought. And until you start to really take the time to understand where you're, um, you know, ask questions of where you're feeling those symptoms, you're never going to get to the root cause of why you're feeling what you're feeling. And we're outsourcing that part to other people to help us determine. So um, I first say just don't dismiss yourself. Be accountable for how you're feeling and accept how you're feeling. This is it's a difficult transit for many women. And if you're not writing and getting more in tune with your own body and how you're feeling, it'll be a struggle. Um,
mm,
and we're not weak for struggling. And that's a whole other topic that I work with a lot of women on. It's like there's this weakness tied to it. No, you're struggling. Things are changing, and that is okay. It's now what do we do with what we know, and how do we get you better with
mm.
understanding your own code, your own body, and your own knowledge of what you're going through.
Since the book raises concerns about women's health and medical guidance, how can women advocate for themselves while still being careful, informed, and responsible with their health decisions?
I think self-advocacy comes with education and discernment and not fear. We make a
Mm,
lot of fear-based decisions and they backfire.
mm,
It's about, I'll never tell anybody to blindly reject medicine, although I might decide to do things naturally. I think every tool is critical and important, but you take all the information together and you come up with your own conclusion on your own body based on your own experience,
mm.
using the tools around you to get there. Um, I think this is where a lot of people seek my help is because they've already gone through various channels to feel better or to understand more about their health. And to me, it's no, get all the info. There is no one place for the right answers. You're the only right answer. And understanding how to take each piece and build it to how it works for yourself, I think is important. And I think that goes far beyond perimenopause.
All right. Your book, The Second Fire, on there, healing is not presented as a one size fits all formula. What does it look like for a woman to begin paying attention to her body in a practical, everyday way?
I think it's pretty simple. I think it's tracking sleep. It's documenting what you're eating and how does it make you feel? Where do you feel inflammation once you're eating? How are your energy levels? Are you sleeping enough? Um, do you know more? Do you know about your blood sugar and what happens with your blood sugar in
That's
midlife? Even if
important.
you're
Yeah.
not diabetic, just
Yeah.
understanding those simplistic little things or being more cognizant of them is the best place to start. Because once you start connecting in those places, everything else starts to fall into place. You'll feel more control over yourself and your body and what you're feeling and what doesn't, what works and what does not work.
Here's another interesting question that I have for you. You devote attention to the role of men during this transition. What do husbands, partners, sons, brothers, cousins, and male friends often misunderstand about perimenopause?
That it's not just hormones. And we don't teach women enough. We definitely don't teach men at all, it feels like, right? We give them the word, what it might mean, and it's hard unless you're experiencing it to truly understand it.
Right.
So what I tell men is this is more than just hormones. It is hormones, but it's just so much more than that. It is a physical, a mental, and a spiritual transition. And we're looking for our partners not to fix us.
Yes.
We're looking for
Support.
support.
Yeah.
Yeah, support in the process, patience, listening. These are all critical. And every phase through perimenopause is also different, where you feel like um, where you're subtly getting into the experience, you might feel very different as you're at the tail end of it. It's understanding your partner and their rhythms, and that will take you a long way. Ask questions. Ask questions. Sometimes it's communication and women and know that women often are not even knowing what they're experiencing in that moment. Hindsight becomes 2020. Months later, you're like, oh, that's what it was. And being able to communicate that because it's important to not dismiss what men are also going through. This is also hard for a man to experience their wife, their mother, their siblings, just people around them, the loved ones going through that and not knowing what it is or how they're feeling and like tiptoeing. So just communication is just really important and don't be afraid to ask questions. And it's that compassion, I think that goes a long way.
True. I agree. You also write about preparing the next generation. That's very important. What should mothers, mentors, and families be teaching younger women before they reach this stage of life?
I think we need to teach our young girls body literacy at a much younger age, much earlier in the process. And and not to it is not to instill fear, but it's they need to understand their bodies. So just like we're disconnected, we teach our girls, our daughters to disconnect at a young age as well. So how do we stop that pattern? And in turn, teach them not just the health class in public school, hormone class, understand your hormones and you ebb and flow every month and what that means, what your cycles mean, nutrition and how important that is and what role it plays, your stress levels and what stress does to a woman's body, which often doesn't get discussed. And understanding how to regulate your nervous system. These are critical tools to teach young girls so that no matter what phase they're in as they get older, they're able to adapt versus at least my generation or many women that I talk to, where it's like a crash course and you're going, you're living as it comes and hopefully you have a good support system that you can ask questions to. But if you don't, boy, is that a roller coaster. So how do we avoid doing that for our young girls? It's educating them early, having conversations that are very important for their overall health, no matter what stage they're in.
Right. Your book blends personal story, research, cultural critique, and strong conviction. What was the hardest part of writing it honestly?
Vulnerability. It was really hard to, um, it's one thing to talk about research that I'd done and, the culture, the history, but once I start to openly talk and confess about myself, the grief I went through, the anger, the awakening, the transition, it was, it's hard to put your own life out there. But I knew people would disagree with parts of my book, but I had to be comfortable with that because it was important. I had to blend what we know culturally, we know our history, but this is what I'm going through. Like how bridging that together, because that's the kind of conversation I think we need to be having. Every woman individually, my experience will be different than anybody else's, and
Right.
but together, it's knowing that we have our history, we have our culture, we have our experiences, and it's time we all rise together and start having those very difficult conversations and understand why there's a gap in our own healthcare when it comes to this topic. Research, there is barely any research. At least, the few things I was able to get my hands on and read, I mean, they were based on much younger women, not
Uh-huh.
older women. There's definitely work that needs to be done. And I really encourage women, and I think that's part of the hardest part was maybe I have to be honest here. Maybe I have to be direct so that other women will feel empowered to do the same thing. So we're not continuing to struggle for years. We're having more of a conversation and helping one another come out of, our these hard times together, these hard conversations together.
And I agree with that. Perimenopause, women do have different experiences. Your experience might be different from others, but there's also this understanding that it is a spectrum of experiences, and we would never really know how similar our experience or experiences are for those who are supporting their parents, perhaps their siblings going through this, or maybe a colleague, a friend. So yeah, this is a very good conversation to have. Tamar, before I'm going to close this interview, I just would want to ask you, especially for those, for our viewers and listeners who are interested to get a copy of your book, where can we grab a copy of The Second Fire?
You can go to balboapress.com and Amazon to purchase the book.
All right. Down to my last question. Tamar, if a reader finishes The Second Fire and feels challenged, uncomfortable, or even disagrees with parts of it, what deeper reflection would you still hope they take seriously?
I hope if they leave, they leave with asking these questions, right? Why are women struggling silently? Why are they feeling disconnected from their own bodies, right? Why the hormonal chaos? Why the anxiety, the burnout? All if we all we get out of this book is just asking those questions, I feel like I have done probably years worth of work that has been neglected in research for a very long time. Um, the, and I know there'll be disagreements with certain parts of this book. I think women deserve much more open conversation and more research, more compassion and more preparation for this process and this stage of life. So that was my goal with the second fire. It's more of an invitation.
Mm.
It's don't fear your body. Understand it more deeply. It's speaking to you. It has so much wisdom in it. And if you leave with just that message, I feel like I've done my job.
Tamar, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us about your book and to share the inspiration, message, and purpose behind it. It has been a pleasure having this conversation with you, and I hope our viewers and listeners will be encouraged to check out your book and take something meaningful from what you shared today.
Thank you so much, Ray. It was great to meet you and great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Tamar. I also want to give a big shout out to our awesome viewers and listeners for joining us for this interview. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on the Author Roundup. I'm Ray Walters. Join me next time as we explore the world of supported self publishing, one indie author at a time.